Look at any mountain and your brain tells you the same lie every single time. It tells you that thing is doing nothing. Just sitting there, rock silent, dead. But that mountain has been secretly deciding who gets rivers and who gets deserts, who gets forests and who gets dust for millions of years without moving a single inch. And here's the part that's going to bother you. Even that isn't the real answer. There's something even bigger, even quieter, hiding underneath everything. And by the end of this video, you're going to realize it's been controlling your life too. Even that isn't the real answer. There's something even bigger, even quieter, hiding underneath everything. And by the end of this video, you're going to realize it's been controlling your life too. Maybe it's two towns you've heard of. Maybe it's two sides of the same country. One is green, full of rivers, forests, rain that shows up almost on schedule. The other is dry, dusty, fighting for water every single year. Same sun, same season, sometimes even the same clouds passing overhead. So why does one place thrive while the other struggles just to survive? For the longest time, humans looked up at the sky for the answer. They were looking in the wrong place. The first real answer was standing right in front of them the whole time. Mountains. Not decoration, not scenery for your travel photos. Mountains are actual machines built from solid rock, quietly running one of the most important processes on this planet. Here's how it works, and once you see it, you'll never look at a mountain the same way again. Every second, giant invisible rivers of air move across Earth, carrying heat and moisture collected from oceans thousands of kilometers away. You can't see these rivers. You can't feel them from where you're standing, but mountains can. When that warm, moist air slams into a mountain wall, it has nowhere to go but up. As it rises, it cools. As it cools, water starts condensing into clouds. Those clouds get heavier and heavier until they finally break, and rain falls. A mountain just built a storm using nothing but rock and altitude. This single process splits the world in two. One side of the mountain gets soaked again and again, feeding rivers, forests, and entire ecosystems. The other side gets almost nothing because by the time that air crosses over the peak, it's already dropped its moisture and turns warm and dry on the way down. Scientists call it the rain shadow effect, and it explains deserts that sit right next to lush green mountain ranges, like the two towns we just talked about. Look at the Himalayas. They don't just separate countries on a map, they decide the fate of nearly 2 billion people. Warm ocean air slams into them every summer, gets forced upward, and explodes into the monsoon rains that fill rivers and feed crops across an entire continent. Remove that one mountain range and you don't just change a view, you collapse the water supply of nearly a quarter of the human race. Okay, so mountains control the weather. Case closed, right? That's what everyone stops at. That's the aha moment most videos give you, and then they end. But that's not actually where this story ends, because mountains have a secret of their own. Mountains don't create moisture. They only shape moisture that already exists. Which means something else, somewhere else, is deciding how much moisture even reaches that mountain in the first place. Something that never shows up in the postcard. Something that's been running this entire operation from underneath in complete darkness for far longer than any mountain has existed. You have to go somewhere you'd never think to look. Not up into the clouds. Down into the ocean. Not the surface where you swim or surf, but thousands of meters below. Into freezing black water that sunlight never touches. Somewhere near Greenland, ocean water gets so cold and so salty that it becomes incredibly dense, and it starts to sink. Not gently. It plunges downward for thousands of meters, dragging surface water down behind it like something reaching up and pulling you under. That sinking water doesn't just vanish. It starts crawling along the ocean floor, moving south past the entire Atlantic, curling around Africa, pushing into the Indian Ocean, eventually reaching the Pacific, on a journey that can take up to 1,000 years before that same water finally rises back to the surface and starts the cycle all over again. 1,000 years. Water moving right now in total darkness beneath your feet on this exact planet might not resurface again until long after everyone reading this is gone. This slow, silent movement is called the ocean conveyor belt, and it is the real engine behind the moisture that eventually slams into every mountain range on Earth. It decides how much heat gets carried across the planet. It decides how strong those monsoon winds are before they ever reach the Himalayas. It decides whether a region gets a mild year or a brutal one. Mountains might be the machine you can see. This is the machine that built the fuel for it. And here's where this stops being a fun fact and starts being something you should actually be worried about. This conveyor belt depends on one very fragile ingredient. Cold, salty, heavy water sinking exactly where it's supposed to sink. Right now, that ingredient is under attack. Ice in Greenland and across the Arctic is melting faster than scientists predicted, and all that fresh water is pouring into the exact spot the ocean needs to sink. Fresh water is lighter, it resists sinking, which means the engine underneath everything is starting to slow down. This isn't a theory from some random channel trying to scare you into watching longer. Researchers using real ocean data have already confirmed this current is at its weakest point in over 1,000 years. While you were dealing with deadlines, exams, and rent, the hidden engine running the entire planet's weather was quietly losing power, so picture the chain reaction. The ocean engine slows down. Less heat gets carried where it's supposed to go. Weather patterns shift in ways we're only starting to understand. Monsoons that mountains depend on to create rain become unpredictable. Winters in some regions could flip suddenly and violently instead of easing in gradually. Farming regions that have been stable for generations could destabilize within decades, maybe within the lifetime of people watching this exact video. Winters in some regions could flip suddenly and violently instead of easing in gradually. Farming regions that have been stable for generations could destabilize within decades, maybe within the lifetime of people watching this exact video. We've spent years treating melting ice, unusual monsoons, and weird weather as separate, unrelated headlines. They're not separate. They're one loop. Heat melts the ice. Melting ice weakens the ocean engine. The weakened engine destabilizes the wind and moisture patterns mountains depend on. And that destabilization shows up as the exact unusual weather story you scrolled past last week, without ever knowing the real chain of events started thousands of meters underwater, nowhere near any camera. Now here's why this isn't just a planet problem, it's personal. You have your own version of this exact system. Your sleep, your mental health, your daily habits, they're your own hidden conveyor belt, running quietly underneath everything you do, holding your whole life together without ever asking for credit. And just like the ocean, when that system gets pushed too far without warning, it doesn't fail slowly and gently. It flips. Fast. Suddenly you're exhausted, anxious, burnt out, and you have no idea why. Because you were too busy watching the visible stuff, your grades, your job, your image, instead of the deep, silent system running the whole operation underneath. That's the real lesson buried in all of this. The biggest disasters on this planet and in your own life almost never start with something loud and obvious. They start quietly, underneath the surface, in the one place nobody thought to check, until the pressure becomes impossible to ignore. Mountains taught us to stop looking only at the sky. The ocean is now teaching us to stop looking only at the mountain. And your own life is quietly asking you to do the same thing, to stop watching only the surface and start paying attention to whatever hidden system is really keeping you standing. The next time someone tells you a mountain is just a rock or the ocean is just water, remember this. One of them is the visible machine shaping rivers and deserts. The other is the invisible machine that decides whether that first machine even has anything to work with. Both have been running for millions of years without asking for recognition. And both are sending the same warning right now, if you're paying close enough attention. Don't wait until your own hidden system collapses before you finally start listening to it. If this changed the way you'll look at a mountain or the ocean or even your own daily habits, that was the entire point. Stay curious. Keep looking beneath the surface. And I'll see you in the next one.